Good morning. Today we are continuing with our unit working on those algebraic equations. Today we are doing PO16. I can solve equations using addition and subtraction. So even though there's so much more to algebra than solving for a variable, it's what most people think about. You think about, oh, n plus 5, what is n? So a lot of people think about that when they think about algebra. It really shouldn't be painful. So I'm going to show you 3 ways that you could solve a basic equation. And you're going to think which way works the best for me. But there are multiple ways. It's math. There are lots of different ways to do the same problem and you get the same answer. So I want to present you different ways to do it so you figure out which way works good for you. Because we all have different brains and they all work differently. So find the one that works best for you. You're going to use whichever method you like. So we're going to look at our n plus 6 equals 18. So we can use logic to find that answer. What is the expression as a question? So we're going to write that as a question. What number, that's our n, what number plus 6 is 18? So we can think about it using that logic. And a lot of times with these simpler equations, I find myself doing that. What number plus 6 equals 18? So putting that equation into a question. And then figuring out what number plus the 6. So 6 plus what equals 18? You could use opposite operations. So this one you're saying, okay, what number plus 6 is going to give me that 18? Or you could look at it going the opposite way. The opposite of adding 6 is subtracting 6. Subtracting 6 from both sides of the equal sign will get the variable by itself. So let's see what that looks like. When we get to bigger equations, there should be no voices. When we get to bigger equations, we need to know how to do this method. Okay, so I'm showing it to you because we will be using this method in the future. So if we have n plus 6 equals 18, the opposite of adding is subtracting. So I'm going to subtract from both sides of the equal sign. N stays the same. What is 6 minus 6? It does 0. So we don't have to rewrite that at all because 6 minus 6 is 0. Then I'm going to write my equals. What is 18 minus 6? 12. So there's my answer. N equals 12. So I can, instead of adding on the one side of the equal sign, I'm going to subtract on both sides. I'm going to do the opposite. So 18 minus 6 gets me the 12. 6 minus 6 gets the n by itself. So when we get to harder equations, we want to get that variable by itself. So n equals 12. Hugo?
It's like with equivalent fractions. Like whatever you do to the top, you have to do the bottom.
Exactly. It is like equivalent fractions. Instead of saying whatever you do to the top, you do to the bottom, this time we say whatever we do to the left, we do to the right. You have to do it to both sides. The third way is fact families. Remember those fact buddies that we talked about? So write the fact family below and identify the most helpful facts. So we have 6 and 18 are in our fact family. So we have n plus 6 equals 18. So we could say 6 plus n equals 18. We could say 18 minus n equals 6. Or 18 minus 6 equals n. Which one is going to be the most helpful one? 18 minus 6 equals n. So I can find that easily. Can you just ask up right here? Because I don't want you missing this. Okay, so there are 3 different ways to look at it. I'm telling you that in the future, we're gonna really be using that method. But when you have simpler problems, there are different ways to look at it, right? So you can look at it as a question. What number plus 6 is 18? You could use those fact families. N plus 6 equals 18, 6 plus n equals 18, 18 minus n equals 6, 18 minus 6 equals n. Oh, that last one really tells me what math I have to do. 18 minus 6, and I easily get my answer. So as with any equation, once you find a value for the variable, check your work. Plug that variable into the original equation to make sure it works. So if I said n equals 12, I'm going to go to my original problem, which was n plus 6 equals 18. I'm going to plug in that 12 for n. 12 plus 6 equals 18. 12 plus 6 is 18. I want to make sure I have 18 equals 18. Do all the math and make sure it's the same number on both sides. James.
If you do it in your head like that one, can you not?
If it says to show your work, I want you to actually show it. If it doesn't say show the work, you can do it in the head, but you want to make sure you're doing your math correctly. And sometimes the best way of checking our math is actually seeing it on the paper. Because sometimes when we do mental math, we're going quick, we get a little overly confident, and we can make simple mistakes. So sometimes writing it out helps us so we don't make those mistakes. So let me scroll up. Using two methods from above each time, solve the variable in the equation. So you're going to use two of those methods, and you're going to show your work. So you're not just going to put n equals the answer. Show me what it is you're doing. Are you doing the opposite? Are you writing out all of the fact family? Are you putting a question? I need to see two ways for each one, my friend. Emily. Write out all four, just like we did at the top. And then you can solve it. Then, on our second page, so this is three problems here that you need to do two methods for. So if we look at that, we could say 8 plus what number is 25? That's one way, putting it as a question. Then you could do the opposites. 8 plus n equals 25. The opposite is subtracting 8 from each side. So 8 minus 8 is 0, so I get n by itself. 25 minus 8 gives me 17. So that's two ways. That's what we want to see. We want to see two ways. So do that for n minus 13 equals 19, n plus 12 equals 50. I should see two different ways. If you want to do the fact families, you would do 8 plus n equals 25, n plus 8 equals 25, 25 minus n equals 8, 25 minus 8 equals n. Emily.
If you do when you write out the expression, do you have to write the equation or you just answer?
Like for this one, are you talking? So 8 plus what number is 25? You could say what the number is. 8 plus, so you could then write n equals 17. So each time I should see the n equals with the number.
So you should see 2n equals.
I should see 2n equals, and it should equal the same number.
Yeah, and also, do we have to show our work
Just like this.
Okay, we don't have to
Okay. Chance.
Can you show me how to do the logic on the second one, n minus 13 equals 19?
So a number minus 13 is 19.
I know, where does the question come
A number minus, what number minus 13 equals 19? So instead of saying a number, say what number minus 13. Okay, so then when we go to our second page, you're going to, on this first page for these three problems, you needed to show two ways. On the second page, you need to pick a favorite. You only need to use one method. It doesn't have to be the same method every time. You can switch it up if you want. But notice what our directions say. Show your work and show that you checked your answer. So you're going to rewrite it with the answer in for the end. And make sure that you end up with this. We should end up with 20 equals 20. So you should be putting in your answer plus 7 equals 20 to end up to be 20 equals 20. So I should see not only your answer of n equals, I should also see a 20 equals 20 worked out. Does that make sense? Let's work it through. So I like the opposites. That's what works best and most easy for my brain. So I always go with my opposites. So if it's plus 7, I'm going to subtract 7. So this would be n equals, because 7 minus 7 is 0, 20 minus 7 is 13. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to put it into my original equation. So 13 plus 7 equals 20. 13 plus 7 is 20, so I should see 20 equals 20. So this top part is me showing my work. This bottom part is me showing that I've checked my answer. You need to have both on there. I should not just see n equals 13, here n equals 10. I should not just see answers. I should see it worked out, and I should see you checking your work. I do not want to see just an answer, because I want to make sure that we know what we're doing. Make sense? Show your work, show that you're checking your work. Then let's see what's at the bottom of this page. We have 2 word problems. The number of baseball cards in a limited edition collection is 100. You already have 36. How many more cards do you need to complete the set? You're going to write out the equation using n. So if we know that there is a total of 100, I could say I have 36 plus how many do I need to make 100?
And then you need
Is that the only way to write that equation? No, because remember there's the fact families. So you could do 36 plus what number gives me 100? Or I could say what number plus 36 gives me 100? Or I could say what?
100 minus 36.
100 minus 36 gives me a number. Or I could say 100 minus n equals 36. It's those fact families. There are 4 different ways you could write it. You need to write it out, write one of the equations out, and then solve it.
And then
You have to solve it, because the question is how many more cards do you need? So you have to tell me how many more cards. So write out the equation, solve the equation. That's the number of cards that you need. Emily? This one does not say show that you checked your work. Should you check your work? Yes. You should always check your work, because simple mistakes happen. So always go back and check. I am not checking on this one, these 2, that we actually checked it, but yes, you should check your work. Today it is -3 degrees outside. Oh, those negative numbers. Tomorrow will be -11 degrees. How many degrees colder will it be tomorrow? Work with those negative numbers correctly. You're going from -3 to -11. How many over are you going? Do we have any other questions on today's assignment? Okay. So with that, I'm going to say to anybody watching at home, we hope you are well. We hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.